Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Get ready for heart-pounding action, thrilling adventures with fresh and unique elements, a touch of romance, and a dash of harem. Everything you're craving is right here. We're excited to have you join us on this journey. So come along to Novel Love Hearing, we're waiting for you. As a small favor, please consider sharing Novel Love Hearing with your friends, family, in YouTube comments, on Discord, Reddit, or anywhere else you hang out online. Happy listening, and enjoy the ride. Landing in front of Hongjun, its handsome beastly face stared at him coldly. The aura of a commander-level beast surged forth. Hongjun's eyes filled with terror, his legs trembled. He instinctively thought he had been exposed. Beside him, his father, village chief Zisang, quickly begged for mercy. Please forgive him, Master Mage. Jun was pampered from a young age and lacks manners. I'm willing to make amends for this. Lu Jun said nothing and gestured to the Night Thunder Dream Beast. The next moment, both he and his summoned beast's eyes gleamed with transparent light. Intermediate level psychic ripple activated, followed by the nightmare domain stimulation. Ah! Hongjun screamed in agony, his mind struck by a strong shock, his brain pierced by pain. A strange force invaded, erasing the previous imprint, and ultimately took full control of his consciousness. Hongjun stood blankly in place. Zisang, seeing his son injured, went mad. Despite the overwhelming difference in strength, he charged at Lu Jun, roaring, "Get out of the way!" No need for Lu Jun to act. The Night Thunder Dream Beast merely glared. The shadows near its hooves writhed. A cluster of black mist morphed into a dark nail and shot forward, pinning the ordinary man Zisang to the ground in the blink of an eye. Very soon, under the puzzled gazes of Mo Fan, Ashuria, and the Judgment Council members, Hongjun began stammering out his identity as a member of the Black Vatican and details of secret operations. Hearing this, Zisang's stiff body trembled. His gaze was both horrified and filled with sorrow as he looked at his son, muttering, "That's impossible. Impossible. Jun has always been obedient. How could this be?" Zisang looked at the unconscious Fanggu on the ground and recalled the past. Grief surged in his heart. Is this retribution? The Judgment Council member's face turned grim. He knew the Dream Beast's psychic ability had pried open Hongjun's secrets and whispered, as expected. The disturbance at the Dark Abyss is related to the Black Vatican. Mo Fan, recalling what happened in Bo City, looked somber. Those motherfuckers. Was Monkey's amnesia their doing? They were still watching him? Lu Jun, seeing this, said calmly, "When I first arrived, the Dream Beast sensed this guy harbored ill intentions toward my friend. A little test proved it. Take him back. Interrogate him thoroughly." Then he turned his gaze toward Zhangzhou and said, "The mole has been uncovered. You can stop pretending to have amnesia now. Having a forget-worm implanted erased your memories of the Black Vatican. Allow me to restore them." The Judgment Council member and Mo Fan were both slightly shocked and quickly looked at Zhangzhou. The normally naive and silly young man finally revealed a bitter smile. "So nothing can escape your eyes, brother." Jun Suziala gasped and covered her mouth. Mo Fan was delighted, patting Zhangzhou's shoulder and cursing with a smile, "Damn it, even after seeing your brothers you still kept it from us." Monkey was deeply moved. He said to Mo Fan and Lu Jun, "Honestly, the moment I saw you and brother Fan, I almost couldn't hold it together. But I couldn't. I couldn't even acknowledge you. The Black Vatican was secretly watching me. Fortunately, that danger has now been lifted." As he spoke, tears nearly fell from his eyes. No one knew better than him how terrifying the undead forbidden zone of the ancient capital was. It was once a land where the Dark Abyss appeared. During the time he was missing, Lu Jun and Mo Fan had traveled across the land, risking their lives just to find a sliver of hope. That was truly an act of righteousness. Lu Jun accepted Monkey's gratitude calmly. Though rescuing him wasn't his main purpose, he had indeed helped, and there was nothing to feel awkward about. The Judgment Council member sighed and said earnestly, "Comrade Zhangzhou, the 9 provinces thank you for your sacrifice. But the situation is critical. We need to confirm what you've encountered." Zhangzhou shook off his emotions, took a deep breath, and quickly returned to a composed state. He recalled and recounted, "I encountered the Dark Abyss. Near it, I saw the Black Vatican. Then I was hunted down and nearly died." As soon as he said this, the high-ranking Judgment Council member's face turned grave. His statement matched Hongjun's, indirectly confirming the intel. This wasn't good. He sensed a storm was coming. Dark clouds blanketed the sky above the ancient capital. Conspiracy, slaughter, and destruction loomed ahead. Dark Abyss, a black forbidden zone, a place even forbidden curse mages might fall. If it were to fall under the control of the Black Vatican, and they gradually manipulated the ancient capital step by step, it would lead to utter devastation. At this moment, Lu Jun deliberately reminded him, a few months ago, the Dark Abyss appeared in Dunhuang. Before that, it suddenly showed up near Hueco village. So where will it appear next? I suggest you inform Hanji of the Magic Association when you return. Perhaps evacuating the residents from the outer city to the inner city would be best. Temporarily sheltering them in the inner city will allow the defensive barrier to be activated at any time if something happens. Just call it a drill. It's the lowest cost option and won't cause mass panic. In the original work, the ancient capital suffered far worse than Bo City mainly because of its dense population. If defenses could be set up in advance now, the Magic Association would have fewer concerns and could concentrate their strength to strike back hard. Upon hearing this, the Judicator grew more uneasy and immediately questioned Monkey's memories. I remember a Black Vatican member with a very familiar voice. HSSA, I can't recall clearly. Zhongxia tried to recall, clutching his head, veins bulging across his forehead as his face twisted in agony. The Forgetworm was flaring up. At that moment, Lu Jun made his move. The Forgetworm was a sinister insect created through a fusion of psychic and curse magic. Fortunately, this was exactly his area of expertise. Let alone that Ding Yumian's main soul fragment, herself a psychic disaster victim, was asleep within his spiritual world. Lu Jun, Ding Yumian, and the Nightmare Beast acted together. Layer upon layer of translucent radiance intertwined over Zhongxia's body. Zzz, a strong corrosive sound erupted. It was as if a transparent net filtered over Monkey's body, extracting wisps of dark aura. Atop his head, an ugly, pitch-black worm coiled. Splurt. Lu Jun reached out and crushed the Forgetworm in one grip. It dispersed into black mist. He fell into thought this was exactly how the Black Vatican managed to plant moles even inside the Judgment Court. They relied on the Forgetworm, sealing and erasing one's memories, waiting for the perfect time to activate them. Even the Tree of Vows couldn't detect them because until those memories were triggered, the hosts were genuinely sincere and righteous individuals. This technique far surpassed Lu Jun's own abilities. He could erase or edit memories but had no way to temporarily suppress them and allow them to reawaken later. That was a more advanced form of psychic cursecraft. However, after witnessing the Forgetworm this time, Ding Yumian's main soul fragment quickly grasped the technique and passed it on to him. And so, Zhongxia's memories returned. His expression grew increasingly shocked as he murmured, I remember now. Junj, you were right back in Bo City when you said there was a Black Vatican mole in the higher-ups. That person is Mu He. Those cult priests and zealots call him High Deacon Hujin Salin's right-hand man. Mo Fan was shocked too. The Judicator's eyes lit up. He decided immediately and said, Zhongxia, come with me back to the ancient capital to meet President Hanji. We'll cast a net across heaven and earth. We've hooked a big one. Chapter 228, Tracking. The Queen of the Nine Nethers. Lu Jun was speechless. The Hunter Alliance's elder Lynxai was here. That was Salin. Wasn't she just alerting the enemy by doing this? He calmly said, no rush. The Black Vatican dares to do these things right under the eyes of the ancient capital. Do you think there's no one supporting them from behind? As his words fell, the member of the Judgment Court suddenly understood, fell into deep thought, and murmured, looks like we need to initiate the Judgment Court contingency plan. When the existing official system can no longer be trusted, the Judgment Court will activate an independent route, carry out parallel execution, bypass all procedures, and not even internal members of the Judgment Court will know. Lu Jun nodded to himself. That mysterious gray-robed man in the original story was probably a product of this system. With his arrival and his crisp, decisive way of tearing up the script, the group felt both heavy-hearted and somewhat confident they at least knew many secrets and could handle them in advance. Ashuria stood to the side, expressionless after hearing everything. No one could tell what she was thinking. In any case, her intelligence business was about to be taken over by Lu Jun. The members of the Judgment Court felt that there was no time to lose, and they needed to return quickly, also escorting the villagers of Hueco back to the ancient capital. At this moment, Ashuria refused to go with them, stating she had another goal: to continue deeper into the undead forbidden zone to find a colleague and obtain a certain item. Original text from the novel. Logically speaking, to prevent any leaks of information, the Judgment Court should secretly detain everyone. But the high-ranking member gave up upon learning that Ashuria was from the Parthenon Temple and held extremely high status. He even explained, the Parthenon Temple despises the Black Vatican more than anyone. With her identity, she would never betray humanity. Hearing that, Lu Jun secretly ridiculed currently, the supreme ruler of the Parthenon Temple, the Hierophant, was the Black Vatican's pope. It was full of holes. The short man shook his head and said, what colleague? She's probably just here to collect corpses. These foreign powers like the Parthenon and the Holy Hall Court all came to the ancient capital. They claimed to study the root cause and solve the undead problem. In the end, they achieved nothing and even got themselves killed, turned into undead, and left us to clean up the mess. Everyone looked at each other. After the brief interlude, they organized the villagers to depart in a grand procession. Fortunately, the dangerous village had enough grey garlic, so the journey was safe and sound. Ashuria floated away with her followers, not even turning her head, diving into the depths of the undead forbidden zone. Mofan turned his head and looked back, curious about what this mysterious and lethally seductive woman was searching for on this land full of death and conflict. What exactly did she want to do? At that moment, Lu Jun flipped onto the back of the Night Thunder Dream Beast, his whole body turning into a mass of shadow and silently departing. He casually tossed out an explanation, "To prevent any information leaks, I'll follow her. I'll catch up with you all later." Hearing that, everyone nodded, feeling it was a very reasonable action. Only Lu Mai seemed thoughtful. Separated from the group, Lu Jun tailed Ashuria from a distance. He wanted to determine how much control she had over the Dark Angel Saint Soul, whether it had automatic detection abilities. Better to be cautious. In fact, with the augmentation of Ding Yumian's main soul imprint, Lu Jun's mental invisibility had reached a freakish level. Easily enough to bypass the passive detection of a forbidden curse level undead. Unless Ashuria could actively control the Dark Angel and unleash forbidden curse power. That was obviously impossible, and at this stage, it was uncertain whether she was even aware of the thing inside her. After a while, Lu Jun saw Ashuria stop at a tomb. It seemed she had arrived at her destination. It was a relatively grand noble's tomb, with slumbering commander-level corpse generals. Despite the dense swarm of undead, they didn't attack the living. Lu Jun was genuinely curious about Ashuria's actions. After waiting a long time, he saw a familiar figure in a blue robe flying in from the distance on the wind. It was none other than Mu He. His expression was cold, hands behind his back. His cultivation had clearly reached peak tier 3, advanced in 3 systems: psychic, curse, and wind. Seeing this, Lu Jun drooled in his heart. Top quality materials. If his curse element's ghost punishment gained another ghost to form a male-female yin-yang pair, his domain would be complete, and his advanced stage could be considered fully cultivated. The next step would simply be to raise his cultivation level. However, he suppressed the impulse in his heart. Mu He wouldn't escape from here. Once they returned to the ancient capital, a net would be waiting. No need to alert the enemy now. Very soon, Ashuria coldly threw a grey cloth-wrapped object at Mu He. Mu He opened it and saw a pitch-black netherstone, nodding in satisfaction. It was a rare treasure combining undead, space, and chaos elements, only produced in the dark plane. It was also the primary energy source that powered the Shaiyuan magic formation. "I've brought the item. If it weren't for that person's commission, I wouldn't have risked my life for this trip." Ashuria said coldly, "Who you are, what background you have, I don't care. To me, you're just a client. Tell that woman, from now on, we're even." Hearing this, Mu He smiled elegantly. "I will deliver your words to that lady. Are you sure you don't want to take part in our great cause?" "Hey!" Ashuria sneered in disdain. Mu He looked at her deeply, full of wariness. In the end, he didn't make a move and quietly withdrew. At the spot, Ashuria fell into deep thought, pondering something unknown. Given her identity and what she knew of Salin, she had long guessed this was the Black Church's doing. That meant every time she transported Netherstone, the ancient capital moved one step closer to destruction. Massacres. The true culprit. Although bound by favors and contracts, she didn't care. On the contrary, she was rather interested in selling out her teammates. Let's see who's more skilled in the end. Little did she know, in the distance, Lu Jun had seen everything, a confirming expression on his face. Ashuria was indeed closely tied to the ancient capital incident. It was skipped over in the original story, but now he had witnessed it, all his curiosity satisfied. As for Ashuruiya's actions, Lu Jun had no particular opinion. Whether she was just doing shady business or being forced by other things, the woman probably didn't care either way. According to Lu Jun's memories, Ashuria was exactly this type of person, neither good nor evil, elusive, wrapped in mystery. She appeared to stand on Mofan's side of justice, but in truth, she always had her own agenda and profited from it. Come to think of it, she and Lu Jun were clearly the same type of people. A sliver of conscience, like how while selling information, she simultaneously leaked tons of intelligence about the Black Church to the ancient capital, practically giving them a god's eye view. She deeply valued family, like how in the future she'd travel far and wide just to save the Black Dragon Emperor. She was selfish and good at riding the waves and currying favor, never one to go against the wind like Mofan. Lu Jun waited a long time. Ashuria, too, didn't leave. At last, another earth-shattering secret arrived. A palace maiden in flowing white robes glided in from afar, graceful and tall, with enchanting yet dignified features, and an aura of sacred nobility. That's right, glided. At that moment, before Lu Jun could react, the totem pearl in his arms began trembling violently. The black serpent totem was clearly fearful. It seemed to sense a monarch-tier presence. Wait, if it's someone of that level. Lu Jun's eyes widened as he studied the one-of-a-kind, otherworldly ghostly beauty. He had never seen her before, but he could guess. Could this be Queen of Netherworlds? Holy crap, a final boss character. Ashuria's business was truly a servicing both light and dark, and now even selling to demons? That made it three sides she was playing. Lu Jun sincerely admired the woman. Damn, no wonder she was the most unfathomable and cunning woman in the original story, the one Mo Fan longed for yet could never attain. He watched the unfolding trade with deep curiosity. Chapter 229, The Trader of Parthenon. The Queen of Netherworlds moved with enchanting grace, her 3,000 strands of ink-black hair cascading down like a waterfall, smooth and silky. Her white court dress outlined her soft and graceful figure perfectly. The woman's delicate body was draped in a sheer veil, appearing gentle and translucent, her skin faintly visible beneath. She carried a sorrowful and refined aura, delicate and pitiful in appearance. From a distance, her ghostly and beautiful silhouette formed a stark contrast with the desolate, lifeless land around her. She looked at Ashria with a beaming smile, her red lips gently parting as she softly said, "Little sister, thank you for your push. The king who has slept for so many years finally has a chance to awaken. When he rules the world once more, your contribution will not be forgotten." What a bunch of lies. Unfortunately, Ashuria was also a little vixen. She covered her mouth and laughed, her charming figure swaying, speaking one way to humans, another to ghosts. The woman in black stockings laughed and said, "Sister, what a grand gesture. Sacrificing 1,000,000 lives from the ancient capital to resurrect the ancient king. After success, I dare not ask for titles or ranks, but that item is far too important to me. Would you be willing to bestow it upon me? You're quite cunning, little sister." The Queen of Netherworld's beautiful eyes glinted with meaning. "I was originally planning to save a spot for you to pull you down and make you a undead, so I'd have a companion." Then, the white-dressed undead raised her fair hand, and a black, crystal-clear stone floated before Ashria. With a trace of regret, the Queen of Netherworld said, "Since I already promised you, this dark soul stone is yours." Upon seeing this, Ashria joyfully picked it up. She had made a lot of money running around, but this item was what would truly strengthen herself. Originally, her dark contract could only summon Commander Class, Knight of Dusk. The Dark Soul Stone could elevate her to the Monarch level, and once her cultivation caught up, she would be able to summon the Quasi-Monarch, Dark Sword Master. Not to mention, this item was essentially a top-tier piece of dark matter, greatly enhancing her shadow element. In the distance, Lu Jun fell into deep thought. Ashria's dark magic was superb, ever-changing, perfectly integrating shadow and summoning systems nearly transcending the boundaries of conventional magic. It was likely due in part to the holy soul of the Dark Angel bestowed by her foster father, Wen Tai, and partly due to her massive gains from this operation in the ancient capital. After all, the dark magic resources here were too abundant. Even the Night Thunder Dream Beast evolved by absorbing the immense warmth and moisture. As for the Queen of Netherworlds, Lu Jun had never expected that the calamity of the undead was being stirred by Ki-O restore the armor of the ancient king and reassemble the emperor's soul. Indeed, without the ancient king's command, how could the undead monarchs from all sides unite and attack the ancient capital? There had to be someone organizing them, someone with a shared goal. Lu Jun remained silent, quietly watching. Amidst the desolate graves, Ashria and the Queen of Netherworld, one in black, one in white, stood tall and alluring, an enchanting sight to behold. Their transaction complete, both satisfied, they exchanged flirtatious banter. The Queen of Netherworld smiled and said, "Little sister, farewell for now. The abyss of calamity will always have a place for you. When you grow tired of the human world, come on down." With that, she drifted away. Before leaving, her eyes filled with amusement swept over Lu Jun's hiding place, and she gave a fairy-like chuckle. Then, the Queen of Netherworld turned into a wisp of green smoke and vanished. "She found me." Lu Jun's heart tightened. Even with Ting Yumian's soul fragment assisting, he still couldn't hide from the peak monarch in the psychic domain. But he felt no fear. With a totem black serpent at his side, he was as brazen as ever. The Queen of Netherworlds must have sensed the serpent's presence and held back, harboring her own plans to trap Ashuria. Just as Lu Jun thought Ashria had achieved her goal and was about to leave suddenly, another group of people arrived, one old and one young. So many people showing up. Lu Jun nearly acted, planning to subdue Ashria, but upon seeing the newcomers, he held back, curiously observing them. The old woman wore a white priest's robe, her expression kind and gentle, yet her aura carried the decay of death. The younger was a big boy, seemingly only 14 or 15 years old, with a frail body and signs of malnutrition. Though clearly a teenager, he was noticeably shorter than his peers, like a child. Yet his body radiated brilliance, filled with holiness and vitality, completely out of place in this undead forbidden zone, truly a walking contradiction. Most eye-catching was his hair, snow white with a faint golden crystal luster. His fair skin gave off a glassy glow similar to an elemental holy spirit. Every movement he made resembled a miniature sun. Strange, Lu Jun thought, puzzled. I have no impression of these two. Still, he didn't dwell on it. The real world was vast, filled with all sorts of people. At that moment, the old woman held the boy's hand and walked up to Ashria, respectfully saying, "Greetings, Your Highness the Saintess." Ashria's aura changed instantly. Her expression turned icy and coldly noble, completely different from before. With a sharp, imposing tone, she said, "So many years have passed, and you're still clinging to life. Speak, tell me what happened back then, traitor of the Parthenon. Why was my father, Wentai, sentenced to the dark verdict? And how could the former goddess Ayesha stab her own brother in the back?" Her tone was filled with seething hatred, murderous intent piercing the air. "If you don't give me answers, don't even think about enjoying your final years. You won't even find peace in death." Hearing this from his hiding spot, Lu Jun's thoughts stirred. So this was about that upheaval in the Parthenon years ago, how the saint's son Wentai fell to the dark plane. Of course, little was known about what followed. Almost everyone believed that Wentai had died. The old great sage let out a bitter smile and spoke in international common tongue. "I will tell the saintess everything I know. What happened back then runs deeper than you imagine. You shouldn't dig too far, or misfortune may follow. I only beg that you remain calm." Ashria replied coldly, "That's not for you to worry about." The old woman sighed. The saint's son's light was too blinding, it suffocated the entire world. Too many people wanted him dead. The names behind this are beyond your imagination. As the old woman spoke, Ashria's expression changed several times. She sank into deep thought. At last, she returned to calmness and said, "Fine. You pass for now." Just as Ashria was about to leave, the old sage, whose cultivation was no small matter, called out, "Please wait, saintess." Ashria paused, turned around, and frowned slightly as she looked at the old woman. The sage spoke with weathered emotion. "After that incident, guilt haunted me. I wandered to the ancient capital of the 9 provinces, ready to live out my remaining years in peace. All these years, I've occasionally helped people who wandered into the Forbidden Zone, healing them and doing my best to suppress the undead. But now, my essence is depleted. I don't have long left. I deserve this end. But the one thing I can't rest easy about is this child." The old woman gently stroked the boy's head and earnestly pleaded, "Your Highness, could you take in this innocent child?" Ashria looked at the boy. The white-haired youth nervously lowered his head, eyes filled with shyness and fear. She murmured in surprise, her interest piqued. "He's only 14 or 15, yet he's already awakened his magic and reached the intermediate level? What a dense light aura! Even purer than the ones from Holy City." "Yes," the old sage recalled. "I adopted him over 10 years ago when I first arrived in the ancient capital. He was a gift from the heavens. When I found him, an entire village had been slaughtered by the undead, his parents included. Only he remained, still a baby in swaddling clothes. What amazed me was that even as an infant, his body radiated light element aura. The undead didn't dare approach him. That's how he survived until I rescued him. Since then, I raised him. His light aura has grown denser with each passing day. He awakened the light element on his own. I suspect he may be a half-calamity survivor. If Your Highness the Saintess is willing to shelter and nurture him, I believe he will one day be of great help to you." The old sage pleaded sincerely. The boy looked anxious and tugged at the old woman's sleeve, calling out softly, "Grandma." Chapter 230, Captured Alive. The old sage stared intently at Ashria. But to her disappointment, the other party refused. Ashria shook her head and said regretfully, "I've already examined his body. It's being increasingly corroded by the light element. His life force, like yours, is on a countdown. Unless the angels of the Holy City intervene and even bestow their angelic soul upon him, teaching him how to inherit it, only then would he have a chance of mastering this light element and surviving." Upon hearing this, the old sage widened his eyes and said with a trembling voice, "Doesn't even Parthenon Temple's healing magic work? Hey, ever since the resurrection goddess soul disappeared, Parthenon Temple has long since become a hollow name. Its healing blessings have drastically weakened. Right now, only a few old forbidden curse mages remain." Ashria sneered coldly. "Compared to the other 7 top-tier forces, it's so fragile it could be shattered with a poke. Never expected what happened back then would deal such a heavy blow to the temple. I deserve to die." The old sage blamed herself, filled with despair. Sigh. Ashria looked at the white-haired boy with pity. A half-calamity one could become a true calamity one at any moment. When that happened, his already eroded body would collapse in an instant. Secondly, there was the threat from the holy city. Even if she wanted to bear the burden, the pressure would still be immense. Lastly, she was naturally averse to light, or it was the nature of the Dark Angel Divine Soul. These three reasons, combined with the cost-benefit ratio, made Ashurya unwilling to help someone unrelated to her. The old woman still wanted to struggle, pleading, "Saintess, can we hand him over to the holy city?" Ashurya almost burst into laughter, mocking, "The holy city? Regardless of whether you're a light type or any other type of Calamity One, they want to exterminate you. Do you really think they're just? Just his Chinese heritage alone disqualifies him, not to mention all the other restrictions. You'd basically be delivering him to his death." Upon hearing this, the old sage's last hope shattered. Her hunched figure staggered and collapsed to the ground. "Grandma." The white-haired boy, even upon hearing this hopelessness, still smiled gently and said, "It's okay. I can stay behind and keep you company. Weizai. Weizai." The old woman chanted the boy's name, her whole body losing strength, trembling violently. The two had depended on each other for survival. The old sage had long treated Weizai as her own grandson. The more the boy was like this, the more pain she felt. Hidden nearby, Lu Jun, using psychic probing, heard every word clearly, secretly surprised. So Ashurya's colleague she wanted to see was actually this old sage. Weizai, huh? A light element half-Calamity One, yet born in the darkest of regions. Extreme yin gives birth to yang, life and death counteract each other. Lu Jun murmured about the two. In his perception, the white-haired boy named Weizai indeed had a life force as weak as a flickering candle. Compared to Mo Ningsu, Kinur, and Ding Yuming, those perfect Calamity Ones, this one had far greater flaws. But thinking back, it made sense. Later on, there weren't really any others like Weizai, which meant he must have died prematurely. Ashurya was about to leave, but then she heard the white-haired boy whisper in a choked voice behind her, "Grandma." She paused, turned back to glance, and saw the old sage's withered body lying on the ground, breath extinguished. The old sage had been hanging on by a thread just to meet Saintess Ashurya. Now, she had truly reached her limit. Seeing this, Ashurya didn't feel a trace of pity. Her expression was blank. For someone like her, dying of old age like this was already the best ending. She looked at the white-haired boy beside her, deciding to take him back to the ancient capital and let him fend for himself. Just then, Ashurya became alert and shouted, "Who's there?" Lu Jun stepped out unhurriedly. He had been right beside them, but his sudden appearance felt jarringly out of place, his presence starkly incompatible with the world. Ashurya was startled into a cold sweat. She stared closely and recognized the intruder. She revealed a seductive smile and said, "Oh, so it's you. I wondered who it was. Secretly following me, is it because you've fallen for me? That's not very gentlemanly, you know." As she spoke, she secretly manipulated her star constellation, ready to attack at any moment. Lu Jun's tone was calm and gentle. "Should I call you Yimeng, or the adopted daughter of Huantai and Salin, the Parthenon Saintess Ashurya?" As soon as he said that, Ashurya's heart was shaken. Not only had her identity been exposed, but even the true identity of Red Cardinal Salin of the Black Vatican was known to him. Her gaze turned sharp. "You know everything?" "Yes." Lu Jun reached out his hand, calm and composed. "So I'd like to invite you to the ancient capital. As a witness to Salin's true identity." "That won't do. I have nothing to do with Salin. I'm a Parthenon Saintess, after all." Ashurya relaxed her posture and blatantly lied with her eyes wide open. "Then I'm sorry." Lu Jun shook his head and struck without hesitation, casting the high-tier curse element spell, Ghost Punishment, Mother Ghost Execution. At the same time, the Night Thunder Dream Beast beside him turned into a blur of shadows, charging straight toward Ashurya. Dark Contract, Night Cavalier. Ashurya released the summoning element spell she had already prepared. A crescent moon-colored rift spread out around her. Da from within the cracks came the urgent sound of galloping hooves, growing rapidly closer. In the next moment, Lu Jun saw a pitch-black phantom horse emerge from the pale moon rift. It was tall and mighty, its entire body covered in dense black fur. As its mane fluttered, dark mist swirled through the air. On the horse's head was a single black horn, flickering with black lightning. And upon the back of this horned phantom horse sat a hulking figure clad in shining black armor, with a humanoid frame. But within that heavy European-style armor, there was nothing inside. The Night Cavalier. At the very least a commander-level being. The horse beneath it was a subspecies of the six-legged nightmare beast. However, limited by Ashurya's cultivation, it only displayed the strength of an advanced warrior. The Night Thunder Dream Beast, powerful and muscular, remained unafraid. Its massive claws sparked with violent black thunder as it slammed them down on the knight's heavy armor. Boom. With a thunderous crash, the Night Cavalier was knocked back, horse and rider flying over 10 meters completely overwhelmed. A Shiruya gritted her teeth, her entire body surging with shadow energy. Chart after chart of pitch-black star maps manifested, vaguely forming a vast constellation. Unfortunately, she had only recently advanced her shadow element to the high tier. The high tier spell, Dominion of Night, had yet to be fully mastered, and her control was sporadic and unstable. Only halfway through casting, Lu Jun's Mother Ghost Execution was already unleashed. Buzz. 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 Behind the figure of the darkly alluring woman, the netherworld opened. Layer upon layer of black-red spiderwebs tore open a corner of the world. A tall and graceful ghostly woman climbed out, limbs clinging to the walls, moving swiftly. Her eyes sparkled with cruelty and cunning as she extended both arms and viciously wrapped them around her enemy's neck. In an instant, a Shiruya's body froze. Even though her layers of focus-type magical equipment shone with brilliant light, they were easily corroded and torn apart by the Mother Ghost Execution. Damn it! She cursed and pulled out her trump card from her bosom. Teleportation spell scroll. This was the true reason she dared to meet with a member of the Black Vatican alone. Salin's successor, the one who had escaped from the Nine Nether Realm. The source of her confidence. Then a Shiruya's eyes lit up with a faint silver glow, intending to use her newly awakened third element. Space. To activate the scroll. Trying to run? Lu Jun sneered. Under the nightmare domain cast by the Night Thunder Dream Beast, he called forth his star map with a single thought. A flood of pure silver brilliance burst forth, illuminating half the sky. Mid-tier level 4 space magic. Spatial rhythm dimensional anchor. A majestic silver hill came crashing down from the sky, enveloping a radius of several dozen meters around a Shiruya, along with a massive Mother Ghost Execution behind her. In the next instant, the silver scroll in Shiruya's hand, which had been reacting intensely, suddenly dimmed, completely extinguished. She was dumbfounded. How is this possible? Chapter 231, Yielding on the Desolate Graveyard. Lu Jun smiled faintly. As expected, the dimensional anchor was quite useful. Unless Ashriya's mastery of space magic surpassed his, she wouldn't be able to forcibly break through the anchoring effect and activate the teleportation scroll. Taking advantage of the moment when the Black Silk Cheongsam seductress was stunned, the Mother Ghost behind her didn't waste the opportunity. The towering and voluptuous ghostly figure released strands of grayish-white fiendish aura, all of which surged into the body of the woman it had pinned down with both arms. Crack. Crack. Ashriya's delicate face twisted in shock as vast patches of grayish-white spread across her spiritual world, sealing away clusters of nebulae and galaxies. The Mother Ghost Fiend's innate ability, Earth Womb, was far beyond a regular petrifying gaze that merely turned flesh into stone. Its true form, a Medusa's curse infused with soul-hexing power, targeted the spirit. But it didn't end there. The underworld cavern above the Mother Ghost Fiend's head suddenly expanded. Layer upon layer of cursewells and spiderwebs dropped down, tangled in black and red silk threads that spread across the sky. Buzz. 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 Under Ashriya's furious and humiliated gaze, her limbs and body were tightly bound. Her snow-white slender arms and curvaceous, shapely legs were squeezed until soft flesh bulged out, making her ample bosom and round, plump hips appear even more pronounced and enticing. Right after that, the Night Thunder Dream Beast blasted the Night Knight back into his dimensional plane, then flashed forward in a bolt of lightning and appeared before her. Its massive lion-like body, clad in black and white, looked majestic and awe-inspiring, casting a vast shadow across the land as a dark, thunderous roar raged around it. Its long deer-like pupils were deep as black holes, swirling with a transparent, dim nightmare radiance that pierced deep into Ashriya's mind. NNNGH Ashriya let out a muffled groan. Her spiritual world, already petrified gray and white, was now shrouded further in a layer of dark, shadowy haze. The white-robed ghost woman, 3 jong tall and towering like a hill, lifted Ashriya and floated to stand behind Lu Jun. The Mother Ghost Fiend respectfully bowed its head and said, "Master, your prey has been captured." The process was extremely swift. In just the blink of an eye, Ashriya had been subdued. Lu Jun glanced at the blushing woman in black silk. If not for the need to keep his space element hidden, he would have added another layer of spatial bind just to be sure. One could say that his control techniques had become near flawless, leaving no room for resistance from those subdued. Due to the high-level mage battle, the disturbance alerted the master of this place, awakening a commander-level corpse minister from deep within. Rumble. The graveyard shook violently. The ground thundered and cracked as dense fissures spread across the terrain. Kilometers around were torn with ravines. Plate after plate of earth lifted up as tens of thousands of decayed corpses surged from underground. Lu Jun remained calm. At this point, minor commanders didn't even warrant his attention. If they dared make a move, he wouldn't mind slaughtering another commander tribe. After all, The soul essences in his white tiger pendant were nearly depleted and in dire need of replenishment. Next to him, Ashriya's face turned sullen. If the corpse minister had erupted before her capture, she might have had a sliver of help. Unfortunately, her strength was too lacking and she lost in an instant. Lu Jun stood still as the night thunder dream beast moved forward, coldly staring down at the mound-sized corpse minister slowly crawling out of the central pit, towering dozens of meters high like a mountain. What surprised Lu Jun was that the corpse minister didn't immediately attack. Instead, atop its head floated a massive ancient bronze mirror, as tall as a man. Soon, under Lu Jun's gaze, the blurry surface of the mirror reflected the silhouette of a graceful figure. It was the Queen of Netherworlds. Dressed in a courtly white gown, she exuded a sorrowful fairy-like aura. Smiling softly, she looked at Lu Jun and said, "Such skill, young master. To think you captured the Parthenon sages so easily. I had hoped you'd at least wear each other out. I underestimated you." Lu Jun's face turned grim. Clutching the totem pearl in his chest, he calmly responded, "Which of the 8 Death Kings are you? What is it you seek?" The Nether Queen smiled and said, "Don't be tense. I just came to tell you one thing." In the barren graveyard, the corpse minister returned to slumber and all the rotting corpses sank back underground. Lu Jun's expression was indifferent. The matter with the 9 Queen was simple. She had directly informed him that the 8 Death Kings would soon invade the ancient capital. She even revealed how to enter the dark abyss to stop the resurrection of the ancient king. So it's a trap, laying bait to lure me in so they can find a suitable body for the soul fragment sealed in the ancient king's armor. And now they've set their sights on me? His thoughts turned, instantly discerning the source of the Judgment Council's intelligence in the original plot. The Queen of the Netherworld didn't care who the ancient king was. What she needed was merely a symbolic supreme being, one capable of uniting the fragmented undead empire. Originally, the ancient king was slain in the holy city by Zhang Kong, and now the Queen of the Netherworld had quietly set her eyes on Mo Fan. She hoped that once Mo Fan died and entered the dark abyss, he would become the next king of the underworld. For that, she had lent him plenty of aid. However, Lu Jun shook his head. It would all come down to whose methods were superior. He had Ding Yumian's 7 Souls domain, the white tiger pendant in his possession. Moreover, he glanced at the white-haired youth beside him, unconscious from the tremor of death energy. A light element half-disastrous body? Considering how light magic strongly countered the undead, he might serve as a third contingency. As for the issue with his body's source being on the brink of collapse, that could be addressed later. Lu Jun decided to take Wei Zai back with him. This youth, whether now or in the future, had immense value. Saving him would definitely be worth it. Besides, leaving such a pure-hearted boy alone in this haunted mountain wilderness, within a forbidden undead zone, was inhumane. Asaria watched the Queen of the Netherworld leave without even turning her head, and she couldn't help but grind her teeth in frustration. This woman had known Lu Jun was lurking nearby all along, yet hadn't told her. She took a few deep breaths to calm herself. It was nothing more than the victor reigning and the loser falling. At worst, I'll just use the Dark Angel's holy soul. Asaria made up her mind silently. However, with her cultivation, even using it wouldn't grant her forbidden curse power. At most it would bring her to the level of a top-tier expert. Revealing this trump card would expose her. The Holy City might no longer accept her, and even her status as Wen Tai's adopted daughter might not be enough to protect her. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she couldn't use it. Just then, Lu Jun completely shattered Asaria's fighting spirit. He smiled and said, "There's no need for panic, Your Holiness. I only need you to verify Salin's identity. After the ancient capital matter is over, you will be free to leave. After all, I don't want to risk angering the Parthenon temple by harming you. As for going all out, I do believe you have the means to turn things around. But I also brought the totem Black Serpent. Given how well informed you are, you should know about Hangzhu's Black Serpent, right?" As soon as those words fell, Asaria's expression shifted several times, before she finally revealed a charming smile. "So that's who it is, someone of my generation yet so powerful. Turns out it's Lu Jun, the one slated to be captain of the 9 provinces national team." At that moment, she truly lost all desire to resist. Before coming to the 9 provinces, she had thoroughly collected intel. The biggest recent event was undoubtedly the toxic mist incident in the top-tier metropolis of Hangzhou, coinciding with the growing popularity of the national team competition. Lu Jun had come into her view because of that. She'd even heard a little about the ancient totem Black Serpent, the only one still alive in the 9 provinces. Asaria was secretly stunned. Meeting him now, she realized just how unfathomable this person far beyond the rumors. And to make things worse, she still had to participate in this year's national team competition. What a headache. "It's fine," Asaria encouraged herself silently. "Once I refine the Dark Stone and contract the Dark Sword Master, the outcome is still uncertain." On the other side, Lu Jun awakened the white-haired youth, Wei Zai. Chapter 232, The Great Purge. Wei Zai slowly regained consciousness. He looked at the cold and composed Lu Jun in front of him, then glanced toward the old sage grandmother who had long since drawn her last breath, feeling a sense of confusion. Lu Jun spoke in a relatively gentle tone, "Do you have a surname?" "No," the white-haired youth shook his head and replied, "Grandmother was European. She only gave me a first name. Wei Zai. Zai means the breaking of dawn. Wei Zai was born in a place of deathly silence devoid hope. His name vaguely hinted at his destiny." Upon hearing this, Lu Jun sighed. Although he didn't understand healing magic, the curse element's involvement with spirits allowed him to sense a trace of death aura on the youth. Perhaps it was just as Sharia had judged. His body likely wouldn't last a few more years, unless he could perfectly master that light element magic energy. So be it. I'll give you the surname Lu. The road ahead is long and far. Perhaps there is still hope of survival. It all depends on your own fortune. Lu Jun paused and said, "There's no time to lose now. I'll take you out of the undead forbidden zone." "Thank you, big brother." The white-haired youth, Lu Wei Zai, nodded obediently and expressed his gratitude. Lu Wei Zai was very sensible. He understood that others helping him was a favor, not an obligation. In the future, if there was a chance, he would repay this kindness. "Forget it, don't call me big brother," Lu Jun's mouth twitched. "Just call me Lu Jun afterward." Lu Jun helped Lu Wei Zai tidy up the old sage's remains. Originally, he intended to bring them back to the ancient capital for burial. The undead land was filled with deathly energy. If the bones of a super-tier sage were buried here, what if they turned into undead decades later? But Lu Wei Zai refused and chose to bury them on the spot. Grandmother was a rootless duckweed. Dying in the undead forbidden zone is probably the best ending for her. Buzz buzz buzz. Next, the white-haired youth stood before the grave, palms pressed together, his entire body radiating light element magic, like a small golden sun descending upon the world, pure and translucent. A beam of milky gold holy light fell on the grave, and golden ripples rippled outward in layers. The intense purification force swept away the deathly aura within several hundred meters. Signs of life reappeared in the desolate land, and green grass began to sprout. This is the light element intermediate spell, Radiance Blessing? Lu Jun's eyes widened, slightly astonished. The form clearly didn't match that of an ordinary intermediate light element mage. Moreover, this unique light seed innate spirit seed, sanctification? It possessed strong suppression against dark magic. Only 14 or 15 and already intermediate level 1? A rare gem indeed. He silently evaluated. He could sense an enormous energy hidden within Lu Wei Zai's body. Too great a burden for a fragile human form. In the end, Lu Wei Zai's face turned pale as he said, "I cast purification magic. From now on, grandmother's remains will rest in peace and won't become undead." Once everything was handled, Lu Jun summoned the Night Thunder Dream Beast to carry the frail white-haired youth. As for Sharia, she was still bound held tightly by the female fiend mother. She gnashed her teeth at this, silently vowing that one day she would make Lu Jun pay for this. Moments later, Lu Jun, riding the Night Thunder Dream Beast, caught up with Mo Fan's group from the rear. His sister Lu Mai showed concern while scolding, "Why were you gone so long? The undead forbidden zone is really dangerous." Beside her, Mo Fan noticed something off. He stared in shock at the extra boy and girl, blurting out, "What the heck? Lu Jun disappears for a bit and comes back with a whole family?" Lu Mai raised an eyebrow, and upon seeing the seductive form of a Sharia bound in spider silk, her tone turned unfriendly. "You were being followed, and you brought Miss Yi back tied up like that?" "It's a long story." Lu Jun sighed and explained the events leading up to this. Thanks to the groundwork laid by a Sharia and another queen, he revealed the script without any burden. For a moment, everyone fell silent with heavy hearts. Time was tight, so they hurried back to the ancient capital. Time passed, and just as dawn broke, they arrived back at the ancient capital and stepped within the city walls. The first person they encountered was Zhao, the chief instructor of the ancient capital's defense, who had taken Zhangxia as a student and was closely connected to Zhang Kong. "Zhao who?" At the same time, a gentle female voice rang out. Her figure unseen, but her voice arriving first. In the distance, a petite figure sprinted toward them, crashing straight into Zhangxia's broad chest. The crisp military bearing of Yu, forged over years in the army, vanished. She now resembled a fragile woman awaiting her husband's return, sobbing as she said softly, "I thought you had died." Zhangxia hurriedly wrapped his wife in his arms, apologizing with guilt, "I'm sorry for making you worry." Zhao, a middle-aged military officer draped in a black windbreaker, carried an imposing presence without showing anger. At this moment, even he wore a relieved smile. He looked earnestly at Lu Jun and Mo Fan and said, I kept stopping Yu from going to Weiju village, because I didn't believe anyone could survive the dark abyss. I didn't want more sacrifices. But I never expected the two of you would dare venture into the undead forbidden zone and miraculously bring back my student. Thank you. Mo Fan scratched his head, feeling a bit embarrassed by the praise, and quickly waved it off. Zhongxiao is my brother too. There wasn't much small talk between them. That member of the Judgment Council, Lu Jun, then followed up with the critical matter, revealing the dire situation the ancient capital now faced. When Zhao saw the Parthenon Saintess Asheria, a flash of surprise crossed his face. But his expression grew increasingly grave as he listened. He quickly decided to report to Hanji, president of the Magic Tower Association. Just when Lu Jun thought they might have to wait a bit, Hanji arrived and met with them personally. The old man walked like a tiger, vigorous and full of spirit. President Hanji got straight to the point. You're saying the upper ranks of the ancient capital have been infiltrated by the Black Vatican? And if no mistake, it's Salin herself lying dormant? Lu Jun glanced toward the exotic woman who had been temporarily freed from her restraints. Yes, Asheria admitted helplessly, lowering her voice as she spoke. Salin's true identity is my foster mother, Yi Chang. Even in disguise, she's most likely still a woman. Hanji and Zhao were both shaken by her words. They hadn't imagined such a disgraceful scandal could exist within the resplendent Parthenon temple. Which meant the once world-renowned Holy Son, Wen Tai, might really have had skeletons in his closet? There was no time to think deeper on that. With the traitor being a woman, the list narrowed significantly. Only 2 or 3 women among the top officials of the ancient capital fit that profile. Lu Jun suggested, President, gather all the top officials and keep a close eye on those few female super-tier mages. Deliberately leak some intel. For example, say that the Dark Abyss was engineered by the Black Vatican, and that the key to resolving it lies with Fanggu. Also, that there's one last vial of Kunwell water remaining. This way, we can both verify the intel leak and draw the traitor out, exposing all the mid- and lower-level Black Vatican members and purging them completely. Hanji nodded in agreement. Exactly my thoughts. With all the information we've gathered, this time we'll make sure a red cardinal falls right here. In addition, he specifically instructed, Mo Fan, Lu Jun, aren't you classmates with Mu Bei? Go and keep a close watch on him. Wait for High Deacon Hu Jin to take the bait, and interrupt the summoning process. That way, we won't have to dive into the deadly Dark Abyss again. Lu Jun agreed. Thinking through the details, he ensured there were no loose ends. Keeping Fanggu alive was just to serve as bait. Combined with Mu Bei, he wasn't worried that the Black Vatican within the city wouldn't fall for the trap. Chapter 233, Salin's furious shock. After Hanji received the confirmed intelligence, he instructed his subordinates to properly arrange accommodations for Lu Jun and his group, and deployed a tight net, sealing all escape routes. He then immediately returned to the Tower Magic Association, summoning all the top-tier super mages to the Great Hall at the highest observation deck. Elder Lin Xi from the Hunter Alliance, the Hunter King Duke Xiao, military officers Fijiao, Lugsu, Yading, the Chief Imperial Guard Mage Lu Huan, and others. There were actually many super mages in the ancient capital. In the original work, more than 20 with names had taken action, each with distinctive traits and formidable strength, not your typical single-element super mage. Unfortunately, even for a lesser monarch, it required 4 super mages to bring one down. There were many monarch across all classes. Small, middle, and greater. The leading one, Corpse of the Mountain, was undoubtedly a supreme monarch, which made the manpower clearly insufficient. At the level of supreme monarch, it took 2 or 3 peak super mages, half Forbidden Curse level, to barely stand their ground. To completely annihilate one, Forbidden Curse magic was required. Let alone the descent of the supreme creation, Dark Abyss. Whether Forbidden Curse magic could even destroy it was another question. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been Forbidden Curse mages lost deep in Dark Abyss back then. The ancient capital's undead, excluding the ancient king, already constituted a standard demonic empire's military force. On a global scale, this empire might not rank top tier, but for a single city of a nation to face it alone, the pressure was enormous. To match its combat strength, at least the entire Northwest had to be mobilized. Currently, Hanji had already rushed to send word calling for Forbidden Curse mages, but they couldn't be ready immediately. Firstly, Forbidden Curse magic was equivalent to nuclear weapons in the technological world, extremely polluting. Any area cleansed by Forbidden Curse magic became completely lifeless. Even the undead couldn't survive such devastation. Thus, where to unleash it in the ancient capital had to be carefully considered. Preferably not at all. Otherwise, the city would fall into decline post-battle. The ancient capital's economy relied heavily on reselling undead materials and solescences. If the pillar industry collapsed, The losses would be irreparable. Secondly, Forbidden Curse mages couldn't arbitrarily cast 5th-tier Forbidden Curse magic. They needed an entire legion of high-tier mages to act as formation nodes for control. To prevent interruption during the process, layered formations of mage battalions had to be deployed around them, making the setup very time-consuming. Lastly, with the vast expanse of 9 provinces already under threat from multiple empires, there simply weren't enough hands to spare. In the Great Hall of the observation deck, a middle-aged man with a full beard arrived late, covered in blood and emanating killing intent, clearly just back from the battlefield. It was none other than Zhu Meng, long unseen. After being demoted to the ancient capital, he had remained stationed there, working diligently. He swept his eyes across the room, frowning, and said, "Chairman Han, what major matter calls for all high-level members?" "The northern city wall is under heavy pressure. Suspected monarch-level monsters are causing havoc." From the main seat, Hanji said in a deep voice, "That's precisely what I'm talking about. According to reliable intel, this undead disaster is closely tied to the Black Vatican." As the chairman spoke, the 7 or 8 super mages present trembled in shock, furious to the core. "So I've decided. Under the guise of a drill, we'll first evacuate the outer city's civilians into the inner city and prepare to activate the barrier at any time." Hanji gave the order firmly. "Tomorrow morning, we will bathe ourselves in the Kunwell waters of villages, then step into Dark Abyss to stop the ancient king's resurrection and disrupt the summoning process." "Excellent." Zhu Meng laughed heartily. "I'm willing to risk my life for a noble cause. That ancient king from 2,000 years ago, the great unifier, I've long wanted to witness his power. Applying for Forbidden Curse magic isn't so easy, and its destruction is far too severe." Lin Sai, Duke Xiao, Yading, and the other super mages had no objections. In the dimly lit tower corridor, clack clack clack, a series of crisp footsteps echoed. Elder Lin Sai of the Hunter Alliance strolled along the classic wooden floor in high heels, her palace dress swaying with every step. She was an extremely beautiful woman, an enchanting 30-year-old lady. Her figure was graceful, full of mature charm. The crow's feet at the corners of her eyes didn't show age but added a mellow elegance refined by the years. On the left side of the corridor, ancient wall paintings exuded a classical fragrance. On the right side, through open railings, the colorful magical effects illuminating the night sky outside could be seen. At nightfall, the undead had descended. Human mages fought blood-soaked battles, the ground littered with blood and bones. Lin Sai stood silently, gazing at the battlefield in the outer city district. Moments later, from the darkness behind her, a figure knelt on one knee, drenched in cold sweat as he said, "Greetings, Lady Salin. It was my fault. The plan was exposed. Not only did I fail to clean up the tail end of the operation at Village 6 in Weiju, but I also left behind residual Kunwell water." Under the dim light, the man's face came into view. It was the Grand Deacon of Hujan. Mu-he. Salin let out a cold chuckle. "What use is an apology? Tonight, the ancient capital's drill has already begun. All civilians have retreated into the safe zone. By tomorrow morning, Hanji will take action. For a peak-level mage, interrupting the awakening of an ancient king would be a breeze. Fortunately, Fenggu seems willing to die rather than reveal the Kunwell water's storage location. We still have time." Her expression remained indifferent. "But I don't think he'll last past tonight's torture. You have only one night left. Start making up for your failure now. If you fail again, don't even think about seeing me." As her words fell, Grand Deacon Mu-he's eyes gleamed with murderous intent. "I'll immediately mobilize personnel to assassinate Fenggu, seize the Kunwell water, and salvage the plan." Soon after, Mu-he quietly slipped away. Lin Sai remained motionless. Only heaven knew how furious and horrified she had been when she discovered all her side's information had been exposed and had fallen into the ancient capital's grasp. It was as if she stood under the gaze of a god from above, being coldly watched and laid bare without even realizing it. Salin took a deep breath, fully aware that the plan had already failed. Those high-ranking blue deacons? Did they really think China was made of soft flesh? Once forbidden magic descended, it would crush everything in its path. Salin even deeply realized that she herself was in danger. Suspicion had already arisen, and she was now in a quasi-house arrest state. The moment she left the Clock Tower Magic Association, she would likely face death. Normally, action would begin tomorrow. Tonight, high-level experts should be resting. So what was the point of going out now? That was why Salin was trying to find a way to escape. The Black Vatican members outside were merely bait to divert attention. Besides, she knew she couldn't blame Hujan. The only possible leak in the plan came from her dear daughter, Asaria. Originally, Salin had held all the cards. She didn't mind letting the other side catch a glimpse of some trivial parts of the plan before its final execution. Who would have expected the leftover Kunwell water to become such a fatal flaw? Fortunately, She was confident that at most Asaria had sold off some insignificant etched details to the Parthenon Temple's Inquisition. As for Salin's true identity, she was certain Asaria wouldn't dare expose it. That would do Asaria no good. It would also cause severe damage to her father Wintai's reputation. From then on, the image of Saint Wintai would no longer shine bright. His legendary tale that moved the world would be tarnished, his spotless name marked with a permanent stain, bringing him crashing down to earth. Salin had no idea that the ancient capital's side held two critical pieces of information. First, they had completely seen through her identity. Second, the Kunwell water had already been exhausted. Besides the bloodline of the ancient king, only humans who had consumed Kunwell water could enter the dark abyss. None of the high-level super-tier mages met the condition. As for letting those ordinary villagers from Hua village venture into the dark abyss to halt the ancient king's awakening? What a joke. In truth, the Black Vatican's plan remained flawlessly oppressive. By the time it was uncovered, there would be no way to turn back. Hanji was under immense pressure. The more he learned, the less hope he had. He was already preparing to unleash a forbidden curse-level final strike. The ancient capital would be heavily damaged as a result. If so, the Black Vatican could still be considered marginally successful. His only remaining wish was to kill a Red Cardinal as a funeral offering. Chapter 234, Class Reunion? A Hangman Banquet. Lu Jun and his group were arranged to stay in an official inn in the outer city. It served both as bait and as surveillance. Currently, the complete intel about the Dark Abyss was known only to Lu Jun and his companions, plus Hanji. If it leaked out, they wouldn't be able to lure out the Black Vatican. In fact, they had been running around and had ventured deep into the undead forbidden zone, and were already exhausted. But tonight was a crucial moment. No one complained or dared to let their guard down. They just took brief naps in the morning and stayed mentally alert the rest of the time. Even Zhao Hu and Yu, after reuniting, only exchanged a few affectionate words before focusing on the task at hand. They were all soldiers, seeing their partners safe was enough. No need for mushy stuff. Lu Jun, meanwhile, was on the side settling the white-haired youth Luxi. He examined the enormous light element energy within the boy and curled his lips in a satisfied smile. What a pleasant surprise. This was the third method of suppression. The chances of sealing and containing the ancient king armor robe had just increased. He considered that letting Luxi manage such a vast energy was a pipe dream, so it might be better to have him release it all, let it settle for a few years, and then reassess. Truly a win-win solution. Luxi sensed Lu Jun's fervent gaze and instinctively clutched his body, obediently saying, "Brother Lu, I don't need your help. I can take care of myself." "All right, handle it your way." Lu Jun knew the boy had just lost his family and had also learned of his terminal illness. He was emotionally drained and in no mood to talk, so Lu Jun tactfully left. At that moment, a commotion arose outside. Everyone looked through the window and saw bustling citizens in long queues, traffic flowing endlessly. They immediately understood. This was an evacuation under the guise of a drill. Upon seeing this, Lu Jun rubbed his chin, wondering if the Black Vatican members like Deacon Mu would take the bait. Come to think of it, after capturing Ashria he still wanted to apprehend Mu. Unfortunately, Mu had already been gone a long time. He was very cautious and had left no traces behind. Being a high-level mage in the psychic, curse, and wind elements, he excelled at stealth. Lu Jun shook his head and then sensed the surroundings. He detected several concealed, formidable auras lurking nearby. Hanji had deployed the ancient capital's guard mage corps around here. Every guard mage was at least an advanced level, a true Skynet formation. At this moment, Mo Fan came in after taking a phone call and said, "Mu Bei just called. He wants us to attend a class reunion. His uncle is Mu He. Do you think there's something fishy about this?" Hearing this, Lu Jun shook his head and replied, "I'm not sure either. But you can suggest they come here instead. We have more space here, and it's inconvenient for us to go out anyway." True. Mo Fan fell into thought. Whether Mu Bei is Black Vatican or not, it'd still be inviting the enemy into our net. Mu Bei was easy to talk to. They were all in the outer city, not too far apart. Not long after, Mu Bei, Zhu Minutes, Zhao Kun, and a few other old high school classmates arrived. Lu Jun nodded slightly, but suddenly caught sight of a familiar yet unfamiliar beastly and muscular man. Zhu Jiming had just entered from outside. He snorted discontentedly and said, "Zhu classmate, I'd like to know who's got such a big face to make us come here. We were just at the city wall, making friends through magic and resisting the undead." "It's a bee." Halfway through his sentence, he froze, staring blankly at Lu Jun. Zhu Minutes looked slightly embarrassed but also carried a bit of reserved pride. She said, "Sorry, this is Senior Zhu from the Ancient Capital University, top student of the Curse Department, ranked on the Undead Slayer list. I was originally going to hunt undead with him, But then this reunion came up. I squeezed in some time to come here. Mo Fan and Mu Bei frowned slightly at Zhu Jiming's words. They were clearly displeased but didn't voice it. Zhu Jiming immediately bowed and laughed awkwardly at Lu Jun, saying, "My bad, I spoke too loudly. I'll slap myself." Lu Jun looked at Zhu Jiming with interest, nearly scaring the beastly guy into kneeling. "Little GG, doing pretty well for yourself here in the ancient capital, huh?" He smiled maliciously as he spoke. Hearing that mocking nickname, Zhu Jiming didn't dare be careless. He half bowed and said, "Not at all, I pale in comparison to God Lu." "Is that so?" Lu Jun's gaze was deep and thoughtful, but he didn't dwell on it. At the class reunion, Mo Fan, Zhangxiu, and Mu Bei were all present. The group chatted late into the night, as if past grudges were washed away with laughter. The disaster in Bo City had truly opened their eyes, and now they had moved to the ancient capital. A place that danced with demons. They knew humanity was in a dire situation. With a broader view, they no longer clung to petty disputes. Mu Bei was the first to apologize. "I was wrong back then. After coming to the ancient capital to make a living, I realized how hard it is for grassroots mages. I nearly ruined your future." Then Mo Fan chuckled. "Don't worry about it. That's long since cleared up. The Stardust device you used back then, it was broken, right?" "Yep. I was the one who messed with it." Mu Bei's expression shifted rapidly, turning pale and dark in turns. He'd been scared out of his mind that time, scolded harshly by the family, and in the end, his mother had to enter Uncle Mu He's room to resolve the issue. At the time, he hadn't known the truth, and it felt like a thunderbolt struck him. Furious beyond words, he'd wanted to chop off Mu He's dog head. That feeling of powerlessness was etched deep in his memory. Fortunately, Mu He later explained he was Mu Bei's biological father. Even so, Mu Bei's feelings toward this father were extremely complicated. Ha ha ha. The two exchanged glances and both burst into laughter. After laughing, they each silently cursed the other, two-faced bastard. Dumbass. Seeing this, Lu Jun, never one to shy away from stirring trouble, egged them on for more drama. Night deepened, wine flowed freely, and everyone was thoroughly tipsy. Suddenly, Lu Jun looked toward the window and said calmly, "Since you're here, there's no need to cower." Buzz. 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 As he spoke, the entire hotel began to shake. Layers upon layers of transparent light shimmered in the air, like overlapping dimensions. The blurred reflections made the edges of the building appear rough and jagged. Thud. 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 Outside, the muffled thumps of collapsing bodies rang out. Those were the stationed mages falling unconscious one by one. The main door swung open. Mu He entered, his blue robe fluttering. Behind him followed 7 or 8 blue-clothed deacons and dozens of gray-robed priests. In the darkness beyond, countless shadow beasts started and flickered. Green, glowing eyes lit up the night, hundreds of them at least, accompanied by a choking stench of decay. Zhu Minutes, Zhao Kunsen, and the others stirred in a daze, opening their eyes and asking in confusion, "What's going on?" Ugh. Then the foul smell hit them, and they nearly threw up the food they'd just eaten. Mo Fan's body jolted upright like a carp flip, no sign of his earlier drunkenness. He stared solemnly at the entrance and said in a low voice, "They're here." Beside him, Mu Bei clearly reacted faster than the others, even though he was equally in the dark. At that moment, Mu Bei said in shock, "This aura. The Bo City disaster. Your black church?" "Wait." He saw the man in front and trembled uncontrollably. "You." "Mu He, why?" Chief Deacon Mu He looked at his son with a soft gaze, then turned to Lu Jun with murderous intent in his eyes. Chapter 235, Moonlit Slaughter. Inside the inn, Mu Bei couldn't help but ask in a trembling voice, "Father, are you part of the Black Vatican? Was the Bo City disaster your doing?" He felt immense pain. Mu He's love for him was evident to all, yet he was a traitor, a butcher of the innocent. Mu He fell silent for a while before saying, "You don't understand." With that, the Deacon Mu He no longer paid attention to his son, Mu Bei. He neither forced him to join the Black Vatican, nor did he worry that Mo Fan and the others would use his son's life to threaten him. In the living room, Mo Fan, Zhangxiu, and Yu saw this and understood. Mu Bei had been unaware and had no connection to the Black Vatican. However, the group still kept their eyes on Mu Bei, wanting to see what choice he would make. Mu Bei trembled all over, but in the end, he didn't take that step. He remained standing on this side, then stumbled down in despair. Lu Jun let out a sigh of relief. Just like in the original story, Mu Bei stood firmly on the side of justice. His heart was kind. Right after, they dropped the matter. They were all proud people, unwilling to use a good man to threaten the bad. Wouldn't that make them the same as the Black Vatican? Besides, Since Mubai had already made his choice, there was no need to force him into committing patricide in the name of righteousness. Lu Jun stared at Muhi, sensing the vast and overwhelming mental fluctuations. A peak high tier in 3 elements, his spiritual attainment was on par with that of the ghost woman. That was why, in just an instant of mental clash, the Imperial Guards outside suffered heavy losses, and with coordinated teamwork, they had subdued several high-tier mages. He scanned the figures behind Muhi. 7 or 8 high-tier blue deacons, dozens of mid-tier grey priests, and hundreds of servant-class black beast justic, and felt a chill run through him. In the original story, only a female high-tier water blue deacon attacked Mo Fan, and she was easily defeated when the flame bell took over his body. After that came the calamity of the Dark Abyss, which left no room to deal with Salin's forces. Later, after the failure of the ancient capital incident, the Black Vatican fled in disarray, relentlessly pursued by the tribunal, and suffered heavy losses. Unexpectedly, at its peak, the Black Vatican had hidden so many forces in the ancient capital. This force alone could rival a demon tribe led by a commander-level creature. Buzz. 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 Outside, the Imperial Guard mages quickly responded. There were also spiritual high-tier mages who erected mental barriers to help their comrades resist the Black Vatican. Unfortunately, under Muhi's immense spiritual pressure, they could only hold on with great difficulty. Lu Jun frowned. The high-ups of the ancient capital hadn't sent any super-tier mages, mainly because every known super-tier mage had a reputation, and any movement would alert the Black Vatican, which would be counterproductive. Besides, this group from the Black Vatican didn't have any super-tier mages either. The only one, Hueco, had not shown up. Clearly, Salin was cautious and unwilling to send a key figure here. In other words, it's just a bunch of high-tier mages. Lu Jun's expression remained blank. This was their home ground. Though the Black Vatican had purposely deployed dominance of the night, shrouding the area in darkness to prevent the noise of magical clashes from leaking out. The ancient capital had prepared well. If communication was cut off, super-tier mages would be dispatched immediately to capture everyone in one sweep. Lu Jun. It's you again. It was you who ruined Lady Salin's plan in Bo City, and here in the ancient capital, it's you again. Tonight, I must eliminate you. Muhi glared at him coldly and growled ferociously. Boom. The several blue deacons attacking had already scattered, engaging the Imperial Guard mages outside in a massive battle. Bursts of colorful magical effects flashed, with deafening roars. Muhi strode forward, his eyes flickering with black-red and translucent brilliance, confident he could easily subdue this group of university students. Buzz. 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 Lu Jun and the others were immediately struck by mental oppression. Mo Fan, Zhongxiu, and He Yu had their star charts interrupted mid-drawing. Just then, some of their old high school classmates nearby, still groggy from drinking, were startled awake by the noise outside and screamed, "What's going on?" Soon, they saw dark shadows flashing in the night and smelled that familiar sour stench. Trembling, they realized, it's the Black Vatican. That's right. Stay inside the room. Lu Jun didn't have time to explain or comfort them. While drawing his star chart to summon the Night Thunder Dream Beast, he sternly barked at them. Zhao Kun and the others were sensible enough to know that their cultivation wasn't high. They would only be a burden in this battle, so it was best not to get in the way. They hurriedly took shelter in the rooms. Among them, Zhu Jiming reacted the fastest, darting into a room like a streak of smoke. Zhu Minutes hesitated to speak, but ultimately didn't try to act tough and backed off. Given the beastman's usual conduct, it was thanks to Lu Jun's spiritual castration that he hadn't caused a public outcry at the Ancient Capital Institute. In the sage state, he cultivated wholeheartedly. Now, his cultivation had reached the peak of dual-element intermediate level. Yet with that level of strength, he still didn't dare face the Black Vatican head-on. His cowardice was utterly contemptible. Tzzzzzz. As soon as the Night Thunder Dream Beast appeared, surging black mist spread, filling the entire living room in the blink of an eye. Along with it, the nightmare domain unfolded. In midair, the dim and translucent hues clashed, vast waves of black mist and mental fluctuations offset each other, unleashing a terrifying shockwave that swept across the room. Lu Jun used the concealment of the dark domain to consecutively cast Mind Palace and Evil Spider Cursewell. An ancient octagonal tower descended, suppressing everything below. In an instant, Muhi let out a muffled grunt. His psychic barrier was forced back a step, and he stared at Lu Jun in astonishment. Beside him, Mo Fan also moved. The porcelain doll-like little flame fairy collided into his embrace. A fiery lotus bloomed on his chest, radiating in layers. Flames coiled all around him, making him appear like a fiery demon. After several months of growth, Flame Fairy had reached the peak of the juvenile phase, possessing the strength of a warrior tier in the advancement phase. The two merged into one. Advanced Fire Mage plus Elemental Holy Spirit. Releasing a power of earth-shattering magnitude. Fierce Fist, 9 dragons. Mofan threw a punch. The purplish-red flames flared wildly like a rising purple sun. Somehow, he had already leveled his intermediate fire spell to level 4. Rumble. The entire hotel trembled. With intense combat breaking out on all sides, it finally couldn't hold up anymore. Half of it collapsed. 9 fire dragons burst skyward from the crumbling building. Wherever they passed, rubble and walls were scorched into thick black smoke, which billowed outward and soared dozens of meters high, tearing apart the curtain of darkness. Cough cough cough. Lu Jun and the others staggered out of the ruins, covered in dust. Zhongxia complained, "Fanj, be more careful. Casting fire magic in such a confined space, you trying to barbecue your teammates too?" Up in the sky, Mu He's figure was in disarray. Large parts of him were charred black. Behind him, a pair of massive wind wings shielded him. He had taken Mofan's fierce fist head-on. Even a commander-level demon wouldn't have withstood that hit. This isn't good. Seeing how powerful Lu Jun and Mofan were, He began to waver. His strongest methods lay in curses and a mind, but Lu Jun had easily neutralized them. The wind element was not suited for offense or defense. If this fight continued, the outcome looked grim. I can only rely on the hidden agent now. He glanced toward the still-standing half of the building. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, his pupils suddenly widened. He saw Lu Mai's graceful figure walking out from the room that held Fanggu and Asheria. The beastman, Zhijiming, was sent flying like a dead dog by a fire dragon, crashing to the ground with his entire body scorched. "Hey! What were you waiting for?" Lu Jun sneered, casting a cold glance at Zhijiming. From the first moment he saw this man, Lu Jun had been on guard and deliberately held back, arranging for his sister to guard Fanggu and Asheria. Sure enough, a dog couldn't change its habit of eating crap. He was colluding with the Black Vatican again, truly degenerating the more he lived.